What's up, everyone? Welcome back to TOL Talk of Life podcast, and today I have one and only Msabah Salum. He is a guy from Zanzibar, Tanzania. I've known him since he was a young kid. He's a survivor of Ukraine and Russia saga and America war that I can't tell. But we're here today to ask him how his journey through Ukraine before war and after war. And he's still here with us, and I'm glad. And please welcome Msabah Salum. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for introducing me to this podcast, this Talk of Life program.
Podcast. Yes, sir, you're welcome. And when I say my brother, I really mean it, because you are my literally blood brother. Same mom, same dad. How are you, man?
Sure. So far, so good.
So, yeah. Tell me your life journey. How was it? How did it start? How did you get to Ukraine?
Well, being born and raised in Zanzibar, Tanzania, was kind of, I would say it was kind of a fortune for me, because it was such a nice place where we could actually grow up and live together. I had my primary school from Zanzibar all the way to secondary school. So after I finished my secondary school, there were like multiple choices for me to actually take.
How many years primary school?
It's 7 years, from standard 1 to standard 7. Well, I missed out the nursery school. I didn't go to nursery school, so I started right away from primary school. So it's 7 years, and then you have 4 years of ordinary level secondary school, and then you have 2 years of advanced level secondary school.
So it's like six years.
6 plus 7, so it's 15 years or so.
All right.
Well, after that, I had the grades to actually enroll to a medical university in Tanzania. But then the competition was high, of course, and I took my chances to actually try something outside the box. So I was actually thinking at which country, yes. And looking at the history of Ukraine and its relationship to medicine, I thought, yes, Ukraine is actually a good choice. It is.
Was it sponsored, or you had to pay, or family had to pay for the education?
Some good people with good heart actually made it happen. They sponsored the whole course and expenditure that I had to manage.
So it was not governmental?
Well, partly it was, but partly it was also some private people trying to actually make sure that I get to the dream.
And was this your first time out of Zanzibar, Tanzania, per se?
Well, that's true, because to go to Ukraine from that time, I only had to go to Kenya. So that was the first time to leave this country, Tanzania. So I went to Kenya for visa processing and application and everything. And then after that, I went back to Tanzania to wait for the answer, and then I got the visa, and then after just 2 days, I was in Ukraine already.
So how was Ukraine? Because geographically, weather-wise, and everything, people, culture is far different compared to Zanzibar, Tanzania. How was your experience?
Well, honestly speaking, my experience was adventurous. Ukraine is
what year were you in Ukraine? The first
it was 2018.
2018.
Yes, in the last third of the year. So yes, Ukraine is completely different, of course, from how we think a country should be, and the climate and everything is completely different too. So there, for me, the first challenge was actually the cold, because the way I was dressing that day,
you were out.
Yeah, it was. I didn't know what winter was. I didn't know the meaning of winter. I was like, okay, I just need something on top of my t-shirt. But then I was freezing all the way from Kiev airport. They call it Borispol, the area. It's a little bit out of Kiev town. So I took a bus from there to Sumy city, which is far in the east of Ukraine.
How many hours?
That was like 6 hours
Bus ride.
Yeah, 6 hours
With
bus
cold.
ride with cold. And actually my bag and everything was just in front of me. You know, like I couldn't even move my leg, you know, and the cold was actually coming from outside, actually through the door of the bus, I think, something like that, and all the way to my feet, all the way to my body. So it was like you were in a fridge for 6 hours, and the travel was long, and you couldn't move your toe, you couldn't move nothing. So it was challenging. The first impression was not so pleasant, I would say. But then when we were at Sumy already, at the city far in the east of Ukraine, that's when I saw like this one small town that was like a village, I would say, according to cities in Ukraine. If you take a look at cities in Ukraine, then Sumy is one of the smallest. Yes, but very historical. So I got there, but trust me, the moment I landed to this country, Ukraine, all the way to Sumy city from Kiev, I mean, it was a little bit different because different from where I come from. You know, where I come from, it's like people talk in the bus. You know, at least you get the vibe. You know, it's very social, I would say. But this one was different. Maybe their social way of interacting was quite different.
They don't talk to people that they don't know. Basically.
Exactly.
Where we are from, even if you don't know, you're in a public transportation, you say hi, you know, talk to someone, ask how their day was. Yeah.
You know,
Welcome to Europe, my friend, or other part of Eastern, Western, and everything. So you arrived at Sumy. How was it there? Like you say, it was a small city compared to where we are from, especially the island. The island is not big, but it's very compact and everything. So how was it?
well, now that's where it gets interesting, because if you talk about the big cities like Kiev, Kharkov, and some of them, like Lviv, is a very touristic city, so you will find a lot of people that do not really interact as much as I used to actually see people interact in different places. But still, this is a touristic area, so at least they speak English. So if you stop someone and they know what you want to know, they know what your question is. For example, you want to know about the direction or something. It's easy to speak to people. It's easy to interact. People are a little bit happier. But if you come far from the east to the east, actually this city is very small. The population is not big as well, and most of them cannot even speak English. So. Because it's far, and it's not like everybody visits Sumy, especially international people. So most people do not speak English. And if it's your first day in this country, then you have to actually gamble a lot in most of the things. For example, the buses, you can go to a bus and try to give the bus driver some money maybe for the bus, let's say for the ticket. And he might ask you like, do you have like any small money, like change, you know, and you might not understand. In 2 seconds, he's already mad at you because you're not doing what he said you should do. So
wasting his time and stuff.
Exactly. And you try to speak English to these people, nobody understands. Nobody can help you, even in the whole bus. Nobody speaks English. Everybody is just looking. So you have to really learn the language, like a sign language. You know, if someone look at you in a certain way, you know what you should do. Exactly. So it was challenging because if nobody speaks English in a country like that, the language is also difficult itself. The letters are completely different from the English one.
From many languages that you hear or heard of.
Exactly. So you can hardly read anything. If you try, you might get a different meaning and mislead yourself. So it was difficult, of course, to actually survive in this type of environment.
How was registration? Because you had to register to go to schools, and did you need like ID identification while you're there? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, of course, you have to get registered, you have to get a student card, you have to get a library card. And if you don't have someone that has already been there, maybe in the 4th, 5th, 6th year, then you're messed up because you might miss appointments, you don't know where you should go, the direction is not always correct. You know, there are some places only they know, and you only get there when they want you to get there. So it was difficult, but we had some seniors that have already been there, and they have learned things the hard way. Now they made it easier for us. So they helped us.
This is good.
It's really good. And almost everybody that goes there, at least I know from Zanzibar, from Tanzania, they get somebody there because there are so many Tanzanians that were studying there. So you get someone that can actually at least tell you something, at least over the phone, like, you know, you should go to this place, and you have to show this paper or something. So we could get them done, but still we were frustrated.
It's a challenge.
It was a challenge.
Since it's, for example, it's a smaller city and it's far to the north compared to where you're from, culturally dealing with people and being from Africa and them being not African, you know what I mean, like being white, was there any tension racially? Like, you know, because you go some other countries that they don't get used to foreigners, especially Africans, sadly to say so.
Yeah.
There are some challenges. Were there any challenges that you faced?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like,
of course. This is Ukraine. It's a big country, and of course they don't have as many mixed people as some of the European countries. So, well, you might find it so difficult when you go to places like malls and, you know, parks where people gather, you know, because once you are different in complexion, then you have their attention. You get it, and it doesn't necessarily mean a very, you know, cute kind of attention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, someone can be looking at you in a way like, what are you doing here, you know? Is this where you're supposed to be?
Anything ever happened?
Well, yeah, good things happened, of course. Some people really like the African people or people from different races and countries. So, of course, we had really good interaction with strangers at some point, at the lakes where we used to swim, or, you know, at football places we used to play football together. So things like this kind of put the racial thing aside. But when you encounter some different situations, of course, difficult things happen, beatings, you know, pointing fingers.
Have you ever been
mockery? Yeah, absolutely. I have been attacked. I wouldn't say exactly this is it was only about the racial factor, but this was also a gang, so they do this kind of attack to almost everybody. But you know, if you
it's a gang,
yeah, yes. But
so
if
you're walking in a dangerous zone, you're not supposed to.
Not really. The gang goes everywhere, in the dangerous zone, in the safe zone. They are everywhere. So there was this one day I was going to a supermarket. So from my hostel where I was living, where most of the students from this university I was going to were living, and to the supermarket, it was like 10 minutes walk or something. And what stands between the hostel and the supermarket was a bush. It's a big bush, but this place, you know, it's like a lot of people pass because there's so many students going to the supermarket and back. So it's bushy, but it's safe too because you won't walk alone most of the time. But in winter times where the sun sets quite early,
yeah,
it's like 6-7 o'clock. It's dark like midnight. So one day I was going to a supermarket. I went to get some groceries. I wanted to make something for myself before I just go back to my books and read. I said I should eat. So I went to a supermarket and I saw these people standing at the bush at different sides, 5 people. And they were teenagers. But you know, when you're a teenager, that's when, especially in Europe, you know, the teenagers are the
testosterone,
yes, everything. So I just passed, you know, and they saw me because when I saw them, I also changed my vibe, you know. I was also kind of bouncing to actually show like, yo, if you're up to something, I'm always up to something too. So I went to the supermarket, I shopped, and I was like, okay, if I pass by and they didn't do nothing, they're not the gangs I thought they were. So when I was coming back, I met a friend from the supermarket who was also going back. So he was like, let's go back to the hostel together. Then this friend of mine who was from Ghana, his name is Clarence, I still remember. Well, when we were going back, he told me, look at those people, they're standing there. Are they waiting for us? At the bush. I told him no, because I passed by myself, and they did nothing to me. So they're not what you think they are. He said, no, I think they are what I think they are. He said, let's change the way. Let's just take a long cut across the road. Let's spend 30 minutes to get back, but safer. I told him, no, don't worry, we got this. They're not what you think they are. Then we went there. But he was so nervous to a way that he attracted a bit more of attention. Showed. Yes. So they started attacking us. Like they throw a punch on him. He went down. From that punch, he did not remember what happened next. They came to me. Well, luckily on that day, I was wearing sport shoes. It's winter. Most people wear like heavy kind of shoes. But I was wearing sport ones.
So you managed to run?
Yes. So
I left your friend?
No, I did not run. I managed to actually defend myself.
Okay.
You get it? So I could actually move back quickly, and I was very flexible and everything. So this one guy, he touched my jacket, my winter jacket. So since my shoes were very good, I could actually move back and get off from him. I was light.
Yeah, man.
So I kind of moved away, and they started attacking the person that was laying down. That was a friend of mine from Ghana. So they beaten him so bad, to a point that he fainted. He fainted. But the time they were beating him, I was also trying to beat them back.
Yeah, fight.
I had to save him. It was not an offense, but self-defense. So they managed to run because I was also attacking so bad. So when they were running away, I tried to call some friends from the hostel because we were in between the hostel and the supermarket. That's where they attack. You're in the middle of something where going to the hostel is far and going to the supermarket is far. So I tried to call some friends. They were also scared, so they ran away. They went back to the hostel upstairs because they thought, we don't want to put ourselves in trouble.
So there is tension somehow, but I guess racially, everywhere, anywhere you go, there could be, or there will be some tension between, one race against another. How did you guys react when you heard there is a war coming?
Well, in the beginning, because this story started longer before the time that
the war started.
Yeah. So in the beginning, we were just talking, because we were living there, nothing was happening. We just heard some sort of Cold War. It's just conversation between presidents and between political parties and politicians. Well, we thought, okay, this is something that they do for years. It's in their history, so there's nothing really like a war. This is 2021, 2022. We're in different times. So we thought, okay, nothing like that would happen. So we were just chilled in the beginning. Like, everybody that talks about the war, like, you live in the Soviet times, too, right? Don't talk about that. There's nothing like that.
There was so much comfort that it would not happen.
Yes. Everybody was just kind of relaxed.
How long before the first day started? Like, was it like months, years?
Well, since the time I arrived in Ukraine,
2018.
I've heard of this topic already about the Crimea and everything, in the war in 2014. So it was like, okay, this is history, I thought we were talking about history, and I was like, me and a lot of my friends were thinking like, okay, whatever that's going on between Ukraine and Russia is because of the history, but now they won't really have like an actual fight with guns and everything. Nothing like that would ever happen. They need to find some common ground.
And the first day when something happened, were you close to it? Were you far to it? And how was it? Like, how did it feel? Because being in school, were you in school at the time it happens, or were you like at home?
I was studying, but not in school.
Okay.
Because it was, a combined situation. Yeah, we still had some COVID problems. So when the number of people getting sick and
so people had to do
the cases reported in the hospital rises, then we go back home and we do it online. When that number goes down, we go back to the university. So at that point, we were luckily at home and we were studying online. Some groups, some students were going to the university because it was necessary for them. So that was the time when the war started.
But how was your first reaction on the first time you heard something? You grew up in Zanzibar. Zanzibar, we don't have war, but we have these beatings every 5 years, election times. Some people are being bombed and everything. I know I've myself seen that, but not in a point of war where one fight another and the other fight this one. We all fight. It was more for us. It was more of a beating. Like, okay, we get beat down by people in power, some people in power, and it happens. But I bet that was different. So how was your first day reaction?
Well, at first I could not believe it was happening. Still, it was hard to believe because, of course, as you said, I have not been in a country where there is like an actual war. But then slowly, as the panic can actually attack you like a few days later, rather than the first time, because the first time you're like, what the hell, what's going on? Is it really the war that's happening? Maybe it's not real, maybe it's just some news and everything. But then I started seeing some bombs blowing up, and I started hearing some, gunshots and everything. Well, that's when I realized, okay, now I'm in an actual situation, I'm not dreaming, this is not hallucination, this is real. This is taking place in the neighborhood.
And when we talked earlier before we started the conversation, you said you lived close to the borders.
Exactly.
So was it like was your city close to where everything passed by, or because I would assume if you live close to the border, then if the Russians are getting in, then there could be a way where they pass through your city or close to your city.
Well, it was actually a path. It was like a corridor for them. They had to actually pass by the city to go to the other cities that they're targeting because, well, being close to the border was one factor that put us into disadvantage. But at the same time, Sumi City was not, one of the cities that the invasion was interested in, because the target was cities like Kharkiv. It was a very big city. Actually, before Kiev itself, in the history, it was actually one of the major cities. And Kiev and some other cities that are like the major targets. So Sumi was not. Plus, in Sumi City, we have a lot of people that really have I would say, Russian origin and relationships and relatives. Not really like pro-Russians, but I would say because they're at the border.
Yeah.
So they have their cousins on the other side. So these people are probably some Russian by blood and everything.
Family, they're related. So.
Yeah. So it wasn't like there wasn't as much as destructions compared to some other cities. But still, they blew up some places, some power plants, and a lot of things happened. Of course, some people died. We actually witnessed a lot of things that were going on. Some bullets, holes on the walls, and like real proof that outside is not safe.
So, what was your necessary move when the war started? The first day, the second day, the third day. Couldn't you have gone out of the city? Couldn't you have get out of the country? How was it?
Well, to be honest, at that time I was a leader of students from Tanzania in Sumi City. So I was responsible for around 200 students.
Responsible in what?
Actually, in providing them with information on what the university advises, about this whole war situation, about, what are the chances we have, to actually fly from this war. So I was kind of a leader, and they were listening because we had an organization. So we had to actually maintain everybody, especially that now we have a panic attack to everyone. we had to put people together and think together. Otherwise, it was a very dangerous situation because to escape the war, you had to use a train to go to, let's say, to the west side of Ukraine, where you could take another transportation to another country, like Hungary, Poland, everything. But then, because, the airspace was closed. So, the problem was, in Sumy city, the railway was bombed. That's what we were told. So no train was going from one city to another. And that was the safest way, at least. And the fastest.
I would assume, yeah.
Because safest, because it goes around places, where...
Sometimes in the forest.
Yeah.
But then they bombed that. Any of people that you were responsible have been hurt or died or anything?
Well, fortunately nobody died because I was not the only one responsible. I had a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends that really supported me in this. So we kind of took care of people, and some people took care of themselves, of course, but nobody was hurt because we managed to actually put them together and they listened to us, and we were also communicating with a lot of people. We were communicating with the board of university leaders, directors, and everything.
So you got support also from the Ukraine officials?
Exactly. We were also speaking to the media to actually send our message outside collectively for all students. So it kind of kept us together for that time, and we managed to actually, convince people that there will be a safer way rather than panicking and, making your own decision, trying to escape alone. But some people, I'm not sure which foreign student group was this, but some people tried to escape on their own, and some of them, of course, really died.
How do you break the news to your family? How was the conversation with the family during that time?
Well, being a leader was difficult because I couldn't actually let my own family panic. They would also make me panic. So I had to actually take it to a positive level that we could actually escape. And of course we managed. It was a very successful approach. So I had to put it in a language that my parents could understand what was going on. But to a level that they couldn't, freak out and panic and everything. So I tried to tell them what was happening, but I was also trying to tell them from my perspective what I think would happen to everybody and what I think will be the future of us, of everybody. And I was positive that we could get out of the war zone because we were guests in Ukraine, so we were not obliged to be involved in any war and everything. And we had a little bit of a priority according to the rules. But in reality, of course, everybody saves themselves, Everybody had to actually look for himself.
You sent me video, you showed me video. There was a time where there was no power because the Russian, or I don't know if the Russian and Ukraine have bombed the power source and there was no water. How long did that take, and what was the panic within the community or the people that you were taking care of?
Well, that took as long as it took, because from the time it started till the time we escaped, it was still the same situation. We didn't have enough water, we didn't have electricity, so it was also another panic that came up, because now we couldn't communicate from one building to another. So you couldn't know about your friend if he's still there or not, because they were also kind of attacking some buildings where civilians were living. So it was another panic, and having a shortage of water was also a stress, because now we don't have enough resources to keep us energized and, focused. It was difficult, of course, but the risk was only to actually trust who was helping you to escape. That was where the risk was. Because most of the drivers that you could get, because you needed to get a cab, you needed to get a private car, because there were no official transportation that could take you from the hostel to the other side of the war.
So you had to actually find a taxi, a cab, Bolt, whoever, at a very high price, from $500 to 1,000 and more, just to take you to another city, the next city where you could get a train, you know? So this was very challenging, because these drivers could actually decide what they wanted to do with you, whether to leave you on the way and turn back, you know?
So it was as risky.
Risk, at your own risk. You had to trust the person with your life, because you didn't have any other choice. So it was challenging, but then fortunately, majority of the students were actually transported by Red Cross buses, like for official transportation that came especially for them.
So after you took the transportation, you say you took first.
Yeah.
Where did you go? Did you go to a bigger city? Did you manage to take a train, and how was it?
Yeah, well, I took a taxi to a neighboring city. It was not really a bigger city, but it was just next, you know, and it was the only city that had a railway working around the Sumy area. So we went to that city, and we took a cab to that place. I was with some more people also taking different cars, and we had like a chain of cars going that direction. So when we got there, we had to wait for the train that could take us to a city that is called Lviv. This city is next to actually Poland, and it's bordering Hungary too. So there were two types of trains. There was one that was modern, you know, and with good condition inside and everything, and there was the other one that was very old, you know. The ones that actually use charcoal and everything to get it going. So the first one, of course, the priority was first children, mothers, and then comes old women,
old people,
and then old young women, like about
middle
18,
age.
but yeah, and then came young. I think after that, nobody comes. First comes old people, men, Ukrainian old people that are above 60. They cannot fight war. And then came foreigners. So foreigners, we were kind of last, according to my experience. I don't know what was.
It didn't matter if you're a woman, man, child. If you're a foreigner.
If you're a foreigner, it doesn't matter. You're in a group of foreigners.
So first it was Ukrainians.
Yes.
Women, children, older. All right.
Yes. And then comes foreigners. But yeah, foreigners, we have the only priority we had, according to my experience, was we were put first before the people that had to fight war. So we were technically next. You get it? So the trains were going, and the first train, the modern one that was bigger, had space, and was traveling at a faster rate, was full, because it was a chance. You had to fight for your chance to go in, but then you see women with young children with babies, so you kind of sacrifice. You have to let some people go, but then no one sacrifices for you, so eventually you kind of feel confused. But then this train went, and then I waited for the next one. The next one was the very old one, the one that uses charcoal, the one that did not have space anyway, because it was also full. So I was standing in this space where one car and the other connects. It was not really a space where someone should sit in a train. Fortunately, I had a nice space there. I was sitting at this container where they were putting charcoal. So I was sitting there, but my legs were freezing.
How long did it take?
Well, I would say 16 hours. And most of the time I decided to stand for 16 hours, and my feet, I could not feel them because it was freezing. It was like I was outside. And when we were escaping war, we were advising each other to actually put on some sneakers and some light shoes, so that if something happened, you're flexible and fast and easy to run. So I was freezing. I almost thought maybe I would just have a frostbite or something. So,
did you by any chance think maybe this was your last time? Did you think escaping was possible, or did you think you were going to die there?
Well, it was not only me, but almost everybody was seeing the 50-50 chances of their lives, because now you see from your phone, a video coming from yesterday or maybe from 10 minutes ago. One car was trying to escape through the villages, and it was bombed because it was seen as anonymous. And during the war, when they cannot really know what's going on, for example, who's in the car, they don't even ask.
It's a self-defense mechanism that they don't want. Yeah, I understand.
Yes. So it was a 50-50 chance. Everybody was actually thinking, if I die, then it was meant, or it was my time. But if I survive, then I'm blessed.
You arrived at the border.
Yes.
16 hours, 18 hours later. How was the border situation? Because we've seen on the news, it wasn't as easy going. A lot of people were still standing there. There were some news. Some people were outcast. Some people died of hunger and starvation. I mean, that's during war anyway.
Yes.
But how was it from your side of your story?
Well, when we were almost at the border, we had chances to choose which border we wanted to go to. So most of these horrible stories were coming from Poland, because most of the foreigners and most of the Ukrainians themselves were escaping through Poland. So it was overcrowded. There was an overload of refugees trying to actually cross the border. So we advised our friends and our people and the people that were escaping the war along with us to use a different border. And we thought, okay, Hungary would not be as crowded as Poland, because everybody wanted to go to Poland. Was popular at that time. It was the main border that used to actually save people. So we went to Hungary. It was not crowded, of course, but then we got mocked too, because the racist kind of situation took place there too. There was no you couldn't get to a train because you're black, but because they had space, they had to allow us. But on doing that, they mocked us too. There was a mockery. One of my friend was actually drawn in a piece of paper with a hijab. Was drawn like a cartoon, and they were laughing at us. They laughed at my name.
During war, escaping war.
I'm coming from a war. I did not eat for more than 24 hours. I did not eat eating. I'm telling you, and I was actually thirsty, and I looked so broke. I was completely messed up. So,
who picked you up at Hungary? Who helped you, welcomed you?
Well, once you escape the war, you are at the border. Then there's a train that goes straight to the city of Hungary, the Budapest, they call it. So when you get to the city, right at the train station, there are already people from Red Cross helping people, and people with food already and everything. So that was nice when we got there. So when we got there, there were some students that were studying in Hungary. Some of them with Tanzanian origin, of course. So they heard of this situation, like students escaping war coming through the Hungarian border. So they came to support us. They came to take us and help us with the hotels and everything. Where to stay for at least one night or two, and then you decide to go back to your country or go back to another country. So yeah.
What was your decision? Did you want to stay back in Europe after all that experience, or you're like, I want to go back home?
Well, I really wanted to go back home, but then I was like, if I actually survive something bigger like a war, then I can survive anything else. And I thought my chances were higher for studying, for myself, for my career, were higher in Europe. So I decided to just actually think of where I can go in Europe, where I can get assistance with my studies, because I've heard that European Union countries were helping Ukrainians and the Ukrainian student and everything that has to do with Ukraine, with progression, it has to go on. So I thought maybe I can find my studies easily here, because I don't have to give up and say I'm going home and I don't want to do this.
How many years were you in study, and how many was left?
I was already in my 4th year.
What were you studying?
I was studying medicine. I wished to become a doctor still. So I was studying medicine for 4 years. And I did one of the major exams too. So I was kind of far. We're considered a little bit, the next level. We were considered doctors already. So
were you in a practical?
Yes, most of my classes were very practical. Yeah. So yeah, that was it. I decided to stay in Europe.
And how did that go? Where did you stay? Did you stay in Hungary? Did you go somewhere else?
I stayed in Hungary for 3 days. I paid for my own hotel, of course, but some people could actually get this thing. They call it Airbnb.
Yeah.
I don't know. So they could actually stay there and in the hotel for some time before they figure out what they wanted to do. Luckily, so I stayed for like 3 days, and then I went to the Netherlands because I thought, if they're
Netherlands.
Yes, I went to the Netherlands. Yeah. So I realized that there I could have my rights, protected and respected because there is a big, how should I say, house of law. So projects new ideas to my mind. And then I went to the other side of Europe now. So I went to Germany through Austria, of course. I went to Hungary, Austria, Germany.
All seeking for refuge, or
not really, but more of like opportunities. If someone is coming from war and he has a dream and he's a medical student or somebody, what are the opportunities that they have, in Europe?
So you were looking for places to study as well.
Exactly, to go on with the life, to not let the war actually
distract
your
goals.
Right. So I went to Germany. I tried to actually reach to some organizations that help people, but eventually they said my story is not really enough, to be supported and to get some kind of aid because, as you know, we're kind from Africa. We cannot really be in Europe and take care of our studies as good as we used to because Ukraine was a little bit cheaper. Was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
So affordable. But now this is Europe. You need support. You need help. So these people say that my story does not really fit the categories they're looking for.
So you end up in...
I just decided from Germany, I decided to try Netherlands because they have more, they respect human rights too and everything. But still it was a challenge because now in the beginning we've heard that, okay, students coming from Ukraine. It was the word students coming from Ukraine. Could actually enroll to the Dutch universities and study and go on with the studies. But by the time we made approach, we tried to reach out to these universities. We were told that you do not have a Ukrainian passport. You only have like a study residence in Ukraine, so you could actually go to your country and figure out your life. So it was still a challenge till now.
What is your situation in Netherlands now? Are you citizen? Are you a resident? Are you a student? Or
I would say I'm still in suspension. Of course, when we went to the Netherlands, we were not discriminated. Of course, everybody coming from Ukraine, whether you're a foreigner by origin or you had a Ukrainian passport, we had the right to actually get the social service number and get the social care, including some, financial assistance, and then, the right to work and, just be a normal citizen. So that's my status. But then I have a very definite time to stay there. I have a sort of limit. So it's also stressful because now the war is still going on in Ukraine and we have a limit. We have a visa that says we can stay there for this amount of time. And after that, we have to actually decide whether we put ourselves into another process. Let's say you put yourself into asylum. You're a student. Let's say you are not really maybe a refugee. You're a student, you want to study, and you're forced to actually choose between asylum or just forget your dream and go back to somewhere where there is no enough facilities and enough support for your dream.
So, as we speak, you're still not stable. You're not in a stability place.
No, I'm not stable. And it's hard to actually find someone that can see you and say, I would support you from A to Z or from where you can pick yourself up to where, you know.
Do you miss home?
Yes, I do. I do miss home. I still have contact with my family, even if it's a little bit, if it's few times a month, but I still have contact. I miss home, but I feel like I still need to actually be strong and
fight to stay here.
Yeah, fight, stay here, you know, finish the job, you know, complete your mission, and then maybe you can think of going back home. But for now, I think I still have the energy, and I'm still motivated to actually do more here.
So what is your plan then? Like, you must have a plan if things don't work as you want to, and if things work, which I'm praying for it to happen to you. But what is your plan? What is your A, B, C plans?
Well, at the moment, I still try to actually reach out to different people that I think they are potential sponsors or they could actually sponsor my studies. I need to get back to my studies. I need to actually complete the mission, as I told you. And when I achieve this, I want to actually become a person that lift up people that come from the same background like me or something similar, you know, people that are suffering from war and they cannot fit in the new environment, or they don't get access to like equal opportunities as other people in certain places. So once I achieve my dream, I want it to be like a step that people could actually take a lead from, you know.
You want to guide people?
Yes, but I want to actually achieve it first, because, you know, you cannot, most of the time you cannot convince someone, okay, I can help you with this when you couldn't help yourself anyway. So I want to achieve this goal. I want to become a medical doctor. I want to help people. And then after that, I want to lift people that have the same situation or are suffering from the same story and worse. Yes.
Do you work now?
Yes, at the moment I'm working.
What kind of work?
Well, I work in a big hospital in the Netherlands, of course in the south, in the city of Breda. And of course, I'm not yet a medical professional, so I'm not allowed to actually work in areas where only like real medicine is practiced. But I help with the works that nurses cannot also do. So, for example, if they want materials for the patient, they want pumps for the patient that need maybe infusions for the patient that need to be fed by pumps. I also work with transporting these patients from one department to another. Let's say the nurse or the doctor is ordering that this patient need an echo or need an X-ray or need a CT scan. Then I have to go to pick a patient and bring them to the respective department and back. So I just work with patients. I move patients around, I transport them. Of course, I speak with them to actually make sure.
How is the language?
Yeah, because now this is a healthcare area, healthcare space. You need to actually speak the native language. And of course, I try to speak the Dutch language. My Dutch language is not as good, but I won't say it's bad.
Because you studied? Did you go to school for it, or?
Well, in the first 6 months of working, I was just teaching myself. Wake up in the morning, 5 o'clock, start with Duolingo, watch YouTube video, read a book, whether you understand it or not, just get the words in your head. So then 7 o'clock, I'm already at work. I use the same things I just studied in the morning. So I practice slowly. I make mistakes. I do feel shy sometimes to make mistakes, but I make them anyway. I learn. I get criticized. Yes, sometimes I get laughed at. Of course, you cannot say everybody will be positive and motivating you. Some will be like, just forget it. We're in the Netherlands, just speak English. But then the rules are the rules. I'm not supposed to speak English at a working environment. So
public service.
Yes.
You must understand the native language.
Exactly.
All right. Man, we're running out of time, but I would have loved to talk more. I think there's more we could dig about war. There's more we could dig about your growing up, your home, education system there. Why do you want to study here? Like, we could go on, and I hope we will get another time to actually go through that. Like, why you want so bad to be in these areas in Europe and everything. Some people understand, some people don't. First of all, I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're breathing. I'm happy that you're still alive. And I can't imagine going through what you've gone through. War and, not knowing what's your next meal, if you're going to breathe the next minute, the next day, the next hour. Like all of that, I can't imagine. All I'm saying is I'm glad that you're here, and I think a lot of people are glad, including your family, that you're here. They're very happy. And I feel blessed to be sitting here talking to you, to get your view of what went there, your first eye, because I've seen a lot of things through media, social media, news and magazines and stuff like that. So I'm really happy that you are here. And thank you so much for doing this with me, and I hope you're satisfied with it.
Yeah, thank you too. Thank you for this